it's your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. We're focusing in on the sabotaging nature of a narcissistic or psychopathic abusive relationship. And when we talk about sabotaging, I want you to really understand the root meaning of the word and how this plays into a narcissistic and psychopathic relationship, and how they do this as a methodology to control, manipulate, and overpower you to achieve their ends. Realize that the word sabotage is a verb, which means it's an active word. It's not a noun, it's an action. And to sabotage means to deliberately destroy, damage, or obstruct something, especially political or military advantage. Political or military advantage. So when we look furthermore at the roots of the word sabotage, the word sabotage comes from the French sabot, S-A-B-O-T, which essentially means to, it's the equivalent of sabat, to botch, to strike, to shake up, harry, and essentially, when we talk about military, it has a sense, it's an interference with production work, etc., especially as by enemy agents during wartime or by employees during a trade dispute. So when we talk about sabotage, we are talking about the active, cunning, deception, obstruction of perception and meaning and connection of that person to reality. So sabotage, when we think about sabotaging somebody, we might think, let's just look at it firstly here in a military sense. So if you're in a military sense, it's in essence side against side. It's people on opposing sides. So you have, one country as opposed to another. And of course, it's, winner take all sort of situation. And sabotaging, meaning that they're going to try to obstruct, cripple, deliberately match, bottle up, confuse, and make null the other side, the opponent's position. So that is really to sabotage, to muddle, to make unclear, to obstruct, to con, to be divisive, to be deceptive. So when we look at sabotage, and how this really works in a narcissistic or psychopathic relationship, we must understand that really the end result of the relationship is for that person to remain the one in control, the one to remain, in essence, in a position of power, superior than, above to, and over you or the target, the supply, the one who they're involved with in a sexual, business, or family relationship dynamic. And how does one sabotage? How do they really get involved in really throwing one off, getting them off track? Well, realizing that sabotage is a way, essentially in the beginning, after the love bombing, after they have created a very important position of power and provision and sharing in your relationship, they will go into a sabotage position, which they've really done from the beginning, but you're not privy to it. At the beginning, the love bombing, you don't think that there's any sort of malintent. You don't have any reason to believe or distrust the foundation of the relationship. You don't have any sort of pretense to look at them in sort of a distrustful way. In fact, generally what I find is that the narcissist or the psychopath have been so encouraging or so charismatic or so supportive or so giving them such a feeling of, really in the love bombing, a sense of romantic connection, a sort of blissful experience that they have no reason to distrust this person. In fact, they tend to really sort of love them with reckless abandon and really give all of their selves to them. And when really unbeknownst to them is that they're really falling for them, they're doing it in the name of love. They're doing it in the, in essence, a sort of innocence or beguiling or naiveness, if you will. And they don't realize that there's a deliberate and calculating sort of cycle going on here in terms of the love bombing, devaluing, and discarding, which is coming from this ignorant, blissful state, which in essence is ignorance. People do say ignorance is bliss, but and that's in the beginning, but in the end, ignorance is ignorance. It's not bliss. So that's where really one kind of comes into one's own in awareness and wisdom of these relationship dynamics, which are so crucial to really understand. So in the love bombing phase, you really have no reason to doubt them, to look askance at them, to feel uncomfortable. And so one does tend to give everything to them. In fact, part of the nature of the love bombing is this sort of annihilation of boundaries, where they infantize you, sort of get you into this formless state, if you will, calling you by nicknames, getting you into that sort of primordial state, that regressive state, when really, you're nothing but pure experience. You're really almost separate from your senses, if you will. Love making can be very passionate. This sort of back and forth, the seduction can be extremely beguiling and cause you to lose touch with reality for a moment. And meanings become irrelevant. You tend to sever all relationships and connection with people in your life. You become immediately sort of attracted and succumbed and seduced into this new orgasmic feeling with this person. Even if it's a family member, there's very much a similar sort of giving of oneself, all of oneself to this person, or even a loss of oneself, really. A loss of one's identity, or even your senses, when you really look at a lot of the breakdown of what is actually occurring. And so in the beginning, as we said, that ignorance that is bliss. However, what tends to happen and where the sabotage comes in is when you get into this, what we call devaluing. But the sabotaging, I think, begins unbeknownst to the individual, where in essence they cause you to abandon your reality for this ultra reality, which is really seeing things through their eyes, their perception, their seduction, very much their perception or what they're alluring you into. So in essence, they're kind of taking you and creating you separate from yourself in this world that they are creating. In this sort of world where they are in control, you are not in control, and you really have resigned right to your own sort of identity, values, perspective, and things of that nature. So when people talk, as if they've had a blow to their ego or they don't really know themselves, it's because they've been so caught up in pleasing this person or living life on their terms or seeing life through their eyes, feeling like this person knows more than them, or it's really just an experience of being overpowered, which is different from being infatuated. So I think a lot of people in the beginning, in that blissful stage, that love bombing, they feel that it's an infatuation. So they're doing it in the quote-unquote steads of a quote-unquote normal relationship. However, when you're involved with a narcissist or a psychopath, this is not a normal person. This is not your typical love affair, love interest, family member, business associate. This person thinks and behaves much differently than that person which is not personality disordered, who does possess things like empathy, emotion, emotional connection to others, and sort of a humanity base. When we're talking about a narcissist or psychopathic individual, this person is devoid of empathy. And in the psychopathic individual, they are devoid of a conscience. So when we get into, the psychopathy realm, they are operating without a conscience. So that means really without regard to right or wrong, very immoral, unethical, and what ends up happening is these individuals have such a sort of vapid emptiness within them. They don't have that heart-to-heart connection. They're only able to pick up on what others look like having genuine relationships. So in essence, they are mimicking that which they see. It's not genuine. It's not coming from within them. It is purely an act. It is only an act because they don't possess that ability within themselves. They don't, even the sexuality, it seems like, that they're arousing their partner out of having sexual satisfaction, but generally they are not driving sexual satisfaction out of it. As I've been told by psychopathic individuals, and in my experience, I do receive messages, a lot of messages, emails, etc. And I do understand the psychology of those who are, operating with psychopathy kind of in their personality character disorder, but they do not feel any sort of really connection. They know that they have this emptiness inside of them. They know that they exist in this void and that they are different from people. They don't look at relationships in the same way. They look at relationships wherein they can overpower people. And oftentimes sexuality is a main way for them to get power over people. And in fact, most psychopaths will tell you that they're really not that interested in sex. They might have a high sex drive. They might have a lot of testosterone. They might have a lot of pheromones, etc. And as they describe it, like oozing out all over them. But they are asexual, meaning they're not really interested in sex. It's just almost like a take it or leave it. It's a way for them to get indelible power and kind of a grip on people in their world. And when they have this grip, in essence, this is their version of a relationship. And this is their connection to people, is overpowering them. So just as, you might have a heart-to-heart communication with somebody and have a relationship, in the psychopathy presented individual, they know that the end result is that to hurt this other person, to lead them along and really sabotage them. And so where does the sabotage come into play? And we're going to go into quite in depth here for you here so you can understand how this has occurred, and really so you understand the inner workings, are able to identify it, and then no longer be a victim to it. So the sabotage will come in that love bombing. And this can also, occur very much in the narcissistic relationship as well, but it's really more severe in a psychopathy character disordered individual. So the sabotaging will take place in the beginning, where there's the violation of boundaries, there's the love bombing, the regressing back, and it's really a sense of giving over to this person. But what you don't realize is that you're giving over control to this person in filling of a void which they have sensed is present in your life. So these individuals have a heightened sense and ability to read others, to read body language, to see those who are, in essence, vulnerable, weak, giving, very much possessing of the qualities which they lack within themselves. So if you are a position of power, you are a prime target for them. If you are someone with information, you are a prime target for them. If you are someone with contacts, you are a prime target for them, because any of those inroads give them quite a degree of information, contacts, and power. And that is really what they go after. So it's not doing business for progress of business sake. It's doing business for taking over sake. So there's a very big difference when you really look at it. Likewise in family relationships, taking over a family, sabotaging other family members so they can dominate, take control, have a position of power, have access to the family jewels, assets, accounts, estate, etc. So there's usually an agenda. There's something that they are going after in that specific situation. And they will sabotage others to get them really sort of in a tailspin so they cannot perceive clearly. Example, to befuddle and to mock, such as in our political analogy here. And I use a lot of analogies because I think it's easy if you can see and kind of some reference and how it plays in your relationship. But realize that, they will then disorientate you in that love bombing phase. And then in essence, then they will manipulate with different mindset, things in the environment, certain relationships, triangulation, things of this nature, all to sabotage and to get you distracted and seduced, furthermore, into their perception. So in essence, you are being seduced through their own eyes, which is the destruction of yourself, which is leading to indelibly creating the experience that you are not good enough. You don't have what it takes. You are inherently flawed. You are less than. So you're becoming seduced by this person who is, in a sense, mirroring back to you that you are helpless, that you are powerless, that you, in essence, are nothing. So it's a very disempowered state. It has nothing to do with sexual gratification, connection to another human being, love, fruits of a relationship, going out, having fun, living the good life, things of this nature. It's, in essence, they will then cause you to abandon your own values, perspective, experience, your own identity, if you will, your own position of perception, and really to appease them, pacify them, not disappoint them. So in other words, to keep that seduction going or to keep peace in your environment, it all really depends, in each case. But in order to keep that cycle going, you end up then really seeing things through their eyes or living through their eyes. And so if you are looking to them for this seduction and or guidance, or as a family member or as a business person associate, you're actually being controlled by an outside perspective of yourself, which is existing in an altered reality. So that's something that they will manage, manipulate, and control you according to keeping them in control and you out of control. And this, in essence, is to sabotage you, to get you so disoriented and so out of touch with your reality, your values, really the person that you are, so that they can remain in control. So it's beware of this sabotage, which can take the place in the discard of name calling, belittling, minimizing, telling you you're so horrible, all the different things that go to berate and insult you. And then, you tend to want to explain and justify yourself, or I'm sorry, all these different things. But every time you do that, you're re-solidifying the fact that you are powerless, that you are under their control, and that you are reaffirming what we call negative validation. You're reaffirming to them that you are powerless, that you don't have the right to your values. And then you end up living less than and really sort of out of touch with your destiny. So, and realize that when we talk about, people, viewers have shared with me their experience in a narcissistic or psychopathic relationship, that they really do feel war torn. Well, you're very right on the head when you describe that. It is like being in a war zone when you're with these people. There is the amount of gaslighting, brainwashing, and sort of combativeness, this sort of fear and anxiety that does take place in these very relationships. And what's very insidious is that sometimes people are in a situation where they can't get away from it. So like in a family member where you're living with this person, or in a business setting where you're working with this person, you tend to then, if you're constantly around it, then you also have that Stockholm syndrome setting in, where you feel like you can never get away from your abuser. So it can be very disempowering and very, very upsetting to the physical body. It can create a lot of chemical imbalance and just discomfort there as well, which is very insidious, and it does take a while for this to move out of the system. So I always recommend absolutely positively 100% no contact, so that this self-sabotaging can cease and you're able to really embrace your own reality, your own truth, your own passion, your own values, and live without being sabotaged. Peace and harmony with you here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.